Hey everybody, welcome back to your free TV. It is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, and I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll just jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully, harass anyone, never to cite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So glad to be back with you here on the channel. I want to say thank you to everybody supporting the channel. You make it happen, and I'm so thankful. And we're just going to jump right in here with the news. And I also want to thank everybody for their prayers and all of the beautiful messages, and all of that really feeds me as well. And so I want people to know that I'm so thankful. So this video could have been called Trump buying time too, like my last video, because this is a lot of what's going on. Is Trump fighting to get the recovery of the economic recovery of this country, okay, while having to make deals with devils, okay, make deals with devils. And it is a very tricky business because we are already in this world war. And since Trump has, and all of us, America, and populists across the world have made it known to the globalists and the cartel Babylon, the bankster elites, that we aren't putting up with what they're doing, there's full-on assault, okay, on every level, whether it's economic, cultural revolution, all of the information war, technologically, on every level, this war is already going on. And so everything that's being executed has to be done in a very step-by-step basis, trying to buy time to save the American economy. And that has a lot to do with everything going on. And we have the SHIT storm that is, of course, the ongoing Epstein conspiracy stuff, and the MAGA base, and everybody freaking out about everything. And a lot's moving with that, and it's all very interesting. And I'm going to just lay out some of the worst case scenarios of, you know, is Trump in the files? Yes, of course, Trump's in the files. Okay, I'll just, you know, I'll break that. You know, I think everybody who has been around long enough knows that, of course, Trump will be mentioned in many different ways in the Epstein conspiracy that goes way beyond Epstein and still is the massive cartel Babylon collusion files, okay, from every intelligence agency across the world, run by the bankster elite. So we'll get into that, but I want to start with a couple things because there's so much else going on that is so important. And a couple of really interesting things came out today that I want to mention. And one is, well, actually, I'm going to start with this. We still have an action thing that I know this is going out late tonight, but really tonight, doesn't matter what time, because you're just making phone calls, or in the morning, really need you to call the House, call your your representatives, 202-225-3121. Okay, for your representative, just go through and call them up, or billblasterap.org, because this Genius Act that they're voting on tomorrow is really important to make sure that they don't pass it as is, as it came from the Senate. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's doing a great job standing up for this. She's also standing up to go with Thomas Massey's resolution to have the Epstein files released. And Trump has been saying stuff about that as well, which we'll get into. But this Genius Act was supposed to be the codification of Trump's executive order protecting crypto, basically. And what it was meant to do in his executive order was to protect people's anonymity, basically, to be able to hold their crypto accounts still without a digital ID, etc. And it also banned CBDCs at the same time, this executive order. And what happened here with the Genius Act is, just like they tried to do through the Big Beautiful Bill, what they're doing with the NDAA, with the AI, you know, stealing the rights of states, okay, to stop AI control over their institutions. Well, the same thing here with the Genius Act, where they took it out in this Genius Act, okay, where basically what they did is they took out, let me put on the glasses, they took out stripping the chain of custody, okay, protection for crypto, okay, where basically your anonymity and ownership protection is basically stripped away, okay, and they want to make a digital ID situation for crypto here in this Genius Act, and they also in there, this is supposed to be the codifying of Trump's executive order. Instead, it becomes a platform for CBDCs because Trump had the ban on CBDCs, and what they're doing in the Genius Act is creating a framework, a digital framework, which allows for CBDCs to come into control. And both of these things need to come out of this Genius Act. And Trump made some interesting references today when he was talking about Chairman Powell at the Fed and how no, he's not going to fire him. I believe that Trump, even though he, went and sent a strongly, he spoke with the Senate and basically said we need to get rid of Powell. But he said, I'm not going to fire him. And I think this partially has to do with imminent bank collapses, mega banks like Wells Fargo had to borrow $200 billion in the first quarter just to meet their liquidity requirements. That we have massive bank collapses on the verge here. And Trump is saying, I'm not going to take responsibility for that. Powell has been huge here in trying to collapse this economy. But what Trump did say is that why do we have the Fed? Okay, they were supposed to have this $500 million massive remodel of the Fed buildings, and that they're making this huge building. And it's now up at $2.7 billion for this remodel, okay? And Trump's like, why are they doing that? And why are they saying they want to hire thousands more people into the Fed? And that would be because, okay, of their intention and desire by keeping those interest rates so high when we actually had the first surplus in like forever of $27 billion this month. That it's totally, anti everything that would be meaning to grow the economy to keep the rate so high. And it is because they are trying to, just push the collapse here to do with the dollar and everything to do with the treasury bonds, et cetera, and basically make there be a CBDC. Okay, it's what they're all going for and why they would want to be hiring thousands of people into the Fed. Okay, there is no, it's not federal and there is no reserve, right? That they want to do that in order to hope, their intention is to collapse the American economy, and Trump is doing everything here in the buying time to stop that. And of course, we had interesting deals made with Indonesia yesterday to do with copper mining, and with copper mining always comes silver mining because they go together. And silver's they're trying to short out silver right now. Huge growth in silver, but that's a whole other thing with Indonesia. And then he had Bahrain there, and I'm going to get into Bahrain here in a minute in this video. But Bahrain also met with Trump today. They signed a deal with more investment into the United States, I think $17 billion, and also something to do with a civilian nuclear buildup in Bahrain. And there's also something here with the Epstein files in Bahrain. And I'm going to get into that and how all of this Epstein stuff keeps coming around. And so Trump is trying to do that. He's trying to ward this off. And so the Genius Act calls, trying to make sure that the ban on CBDCs goes in there as it was supposed to do in Trump's executive order is so important, as well as this protection of people being able to buy crypto online without having digital ID. And so there's that. And Trump has basically come out on multiple platforms, one of them being John Solomon interview, et cetera, and said, yes, I think a special counsel would be great. to do with the what wouldn't be a just an investigation, but a conspiracy case, a grand conspiracy case, reaching from 2015 to at least through 2024, to do with everything to do with Crossfire Hurricane, but the constant weaponization of the government against Trump and against Americans and et cetera. And basically, he said, yes, I would support the what was sealed, okay, right before they came out with the Russia collusion, Steele dossier, all of it. We had Hillary's email server being sealed, her emails, right? And we get into WikiLeaks, Assange, all of it, the death of Seth Rich, and basically said, yes, I would support declassifying what was sealed in Hillary's emails to basically be part of this special counsel. And so this is coming soon. I'm sure they're figuring out who they're putting in as a special prosecutor, and we're going to see some massive things going on here. And so this all comes on top of course, what came out with the auto pen with Jeff Reintz being the one who manufactured the pardons for the J6 committee, and on and on. We have Rand Paul already putting in a new call to the DOJ for investigation, referral for prosecution against Anthony Fauci, knowing that the pardon is not real. And this is all going down while everybody's still continuing to deal with the after effects of course, the death jabs of Pfizer, who's meeting with Mamdani, CEO Bourla meeting with Mamdani yesterday, saying, oh yeah, communism in New York, that sounds great for my business, right? And in Canada with Carney, we get Carney in Canada making a $400 million deal with Pfizer and Moderna for more of these shots, okay, to do with the V, which is not a thing anymore. It's just a new rollout of what is the death march in Canada against the Canadian people. And also we have Naomi Wolf coming out, putting out great report on her Substack about how there is a massive infertility crisis in Israel after Netanyahu let Pfizer control their entire HHS there in Israel and steal all their DNA and reports on everything, and the mandatory vaccinations of all the Israelis. And that has collapsed their fertility, okay, entirely. So that's all happening. And I'm going to get into, worst case scenario Epstein stuff here with Trump, because everybody's still so focused, and I get it. I like 100% get it. But I just want you to know that me, in my life, and being, basically a deep researcher, political activist, essentialist feminist in a way to do with that, women are women, men can't be women. Women give birth to babies. We don't want baby bags. We don't want the mother machine out of big pharma, and that we don't want, of course, children to be, raped and assaulted and molested. And basically, this kind of situation of me being a longtime activist, then understanding the importance of Trump and where I'm coming from here in this video of talking about the worst case scenario here to do with the Epstein conspiracy files, and how Trump is trying to buy some time, knowing that he's going to have to walk through another firestorm of stuff to do with him in his life, in his environment, and how he was connected in these circles to do with Epstein, and the worst case scenarios that can come out in that. And knowing that's likely coming, it's why Trump is saying, hey, they spiked the football. These reports that you're going to, hear out of Maureen Comey's Southern District of New York and the FBI field office there, that was never Trumper field office, and what was destroyed or passed on is going to be the next witch hunt, okay? But, however, if it was done through a special counsel and and came out that it does get into the larger Israel, Mossad, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole huge issue. It's so not, it's so huge and massive. It's so connected to every government in the cabal world. And Trump is basically putting it out there right now, okay, with that leaked memo out of the State Department that went, or the Intelligence Department that went to Mark Caputo at Axios right as Netanyahu comes the second time. He already did it the first time with Bindergate, with Bondi, and it's this buying time of making these deals, okay, with all of these corrupt governments who are all in the files. And so I'm going to get to that in a moment. But so make those calls about the Genius Act. Okay, that's number one. And I know this one might be a little squirrely, this video tonight, but I really, don't let your bewilderment get beyond your discernment. Okay, that you need to, kind of get in here to understand why you voted for Trump in the first place and the massive global cabal going against America right now, and that America is the thing. Well, it is the thing for all Americans, okay, that our republic survives, but also that we're going against the massive machine that is the globalist and breakaway civilization attack and assault on the world. And the United States Constitution and the populace of America and the world are the things standing between us and total slavery planet. And Trump has earned the right to be at the top of that with all of our support, and to understand the machinations and the multi-level situation going on. So I did want to mention this. They did have an NGO, a hearing in Congress today to do with the NGOs, trying to go after the NGOs that are funding the riots, etc. And we do know that there was the Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights. Is one of the things called out here, Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights, NGO with a 501c4, caught dispersing spike nails that were, puncturing the tires of the ICE vehicles, etc. This is all moved towards pushing towards Mayorkas having to get him in for questioning to do with the NGOs in his role as DHS secretary and the control of the mass invasion into the United States. So big stuff is going on amongst everything. And we have this guy, Adam Swart, who's the CEO of Crowds on Demand. Okay, that's that whole, we've been talking about it for years, Crowds on Demand, where you can basically hire people to come be part of your protest or your political event, or just, it's just fake reality, just total information war, total psyop, fake reality. Whereas things used to be actually real, where people did what they believed in. But even way back in the day, and even Adam Swart said, labor unions, they'd always bring in people, whoever they could get. And he said labor unions are huge in hiring from Crowds on Demand. But he also said that he was offered, and he wouldn't say who it was, $20 million to pay people, $20 million to provide people from Crowds on Demand to these No Kings and Free America protests and these ICE riots. And so it's very interesting that he's willing to put that out there, but he's not compelled to say who it was. And so it's very interesting to note that this is how huge this goes with this. Again, we're already in this civil war where we have states and officials that took an oath to protect the Constitution. Mayor Bass, her deputy mayor, okay, in Los Angeles, who their Senate just approved this massive low-income housing project in Palisades, okay, where the people still can't rebuild their homes. Newsom, all of the, Jayapal out of Washington, AOC, all of them who are coming out and saying that that the executive power and federal government can't carry out the will of the people who put them in office, and are trying to stop what is federally mandated and 100% the reality of protecting this country. There's already this civil war that's being carried out in a it's a mass media controlled affair, but it's going on. And so I know I'm already at 20 minutes, but I wanted to put those things out there, and now I will jump in here into some more things where let's look at, the worst case scenario, Trump, to do with these, with his history with Epstein, that everybody is so concerned about, and that I believe it is a buying time, and that both of these different events of Pam Bondi, the first time with the Bindergate, second time with the leaked memo of, the files are closed. I believe, but I mean, I know just factually, just date-wise, that the first time it was right before Netanyahu came. The second time it was right as Netanyahu came. And this has to do, I believe, as a controlled information war, to do with the larger situation of the Israeli control system. Trump is living with like devils on his shoulder, okay? And we know that Trump has 100% been involved, okay, with Israeli and Jewish banksters for a very long time. And I could say Russian here, but it's really more Ukrainian oligarchs, all of the mafia folks of New York City, little Odessa, right? You get Coney Island, you have these bankster elites, and it started with his father, and the building of skyscrapers in New York City, and the mafia control of the unions, and the steel industry, the labor unions, all of it. It all was in his sphere from the time he was very young. And he became, then I would say, we would look at this as almost a, what happens when the Trump now versus the Trump of the 90s, of what is, for all intents and purposes, a sort of midlife crisis spree of bad behavior. Okay, he got involved in all kinds of stuff, right? Whether it was massively with this whole situation to do with the models, the beauty pageants, okay, the casino failures, all of this, this Ron Cohn, and everything to do with him and his connection with organized crime and pedophilia rings that were bribing higher ups. It's all there. And I think that Trump knows that there is an eventual SHIT storm that wraps him in there, because he was in those circles. Yes, of course he knew Epstein. Yes, he did bar him from Mar-a-Lago, I believe in the early 2000, like 2001, 2002, when he found out that he was coming there and trying to recruit girls, when he was coming out of, I believe Trump coming out of his midlife crisis, I'll call it. Okay, it's like a midlife crisis for a billionaire elite person, and it's not excusable, but it doesn't mean that Trump is in the same category as your Bill Clintons, as all of these other people. The worst case scenario that that has come out in 2016, there was a lawsuit filed by a woman from California who said that when she was a teen, I think it was 1994, that she was raped by Donald Trump when she was 13 in a Miss Teen contest. Okay, when Trump was doing all of this involvement with all these beauty pageant things, right? And that never came to fruition. I watched lots of videos on YouTube. I watched lots of videos, anything I could find out about it. And there was a lot of hysteria, but there was no substance, okay, that came through. The woman, as a teenager, never filed any police reports, never did anything that would substantiate that, and so it becomes kind of an E. Jean Carroll situation, and and she's anonymous, and it's one of those situations, okay, and so that, I think, right there, what I just said is worst case scenario, and I don't know if it's true or not, okay? But I do know that it never was able to be, it never advanced, okay? And the woman never came forward. And people were saying she's dead, she's gone. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of who this woman was, anything, okay? But that is, of course, the most awful of the things. And that will, of course, come out at some point for Trump to go through another storm of attacks, and it came out in 2016, this lawsuit, okay, right as everything else came out with all of Crossfire Hurricane and Hillary, the Clintons, all of it. And as we see Trump sit down with the king or he meets with the crown prince of Bahrain today, again, on this, hey, we're pausing any look into the Epstein file stuff. The prince, Khalifa, his father, the king of Bahrain, he went through a whole huge Epstein Clinton related rape charges or sexual assault case to do with a Miss America pageant participant. Okay, and that there was this whole situation where Clinton with Epstein brought all of these pageant participants to Bahrain, where they said they thought they were going to be part of a publicity, an actual discussion, something, social, but also motivated to be, like an intelligent thing, not a sex party, and that they were actually then brought to what was expected to them to be part of a sex party. And the king of Bahrain went through a whole huge lawsuit with this, and I believe there was a huge settlement that came out of this. And when we look at this, and we look at Trump today sitting there with the prime minister of Bahrain, very well spoken, he was very, very direct and well spoken, and we look at then him meeting the crown prince after. And very interestingly, I think that crown prince also had a strange lawsuit with Michael Jackson way back in the day. I think it was in 2007. Okay, this is right before they roll up Epstein the first time. But some lawsuit with Michael Jackson to do with that he had this long stay in Bahrain, and that they had paid for him living this lavish, extended vacation, but they had some contract where he was going to come out with a new album. He was going to do multiple concerts and write his autobiography. Very strange. Bahrain, right? Like, nobody thinks about Bahrain, right? But it is, this sultanate, and they had this, again, engineered Barack Obama connected Arab Spring that happened there in 2011. All by way of saying, okay, all of this comes out as Trump is making very sensitive deals with, of course, the Israel stuff is still, so disturbing, especially what came after the agreement that I talked about that was signed on July 10th, to do with the memorandum of understanding regarding AI and energy between Israel and the USA, because then, of course, yesterday we had this huge AI and Energy Innovation Summit in Pennsylvania, where they had $92 billion investments announced. And it has to do with infrastructure, to do with everything from data centers, and Google giving like $32 billion and another $3 billion for these hydro powered electricity plants. So much nuclear going on, 10 new nuclear plants across the United States. nuclear everywhere, right? And we all know nuclear fusion's out there instead of fission, and could they start talking about that? Could that be the plan? A nice, safe nuclear option. Um, we'll get to that, but basically, Trump sitting here with the prime minister and then crown prince of Bahrain, who they know that that the king of Bahrain had this huge Epstein thing, okay, and likely a very real thing, and that they're executing these deals, and how much of these files are leveraged in there, I don't know. I don't know. Hence why I keep saying it seems like a buying time thing, because I think that Trump knows he will be drugged through the mud of this at some point, and would like it to be a little later after the economy, um, that the economy actually survives this year with impending bank collapses, etc. And the other things in the besides the beauty pageants, the rape allegation, and the other thing could be just his his wife and Melania, and his all the stuff to do with Les Wexner and the models, Epstein's brother, I think Mark Epstein, um, and his whole modeling agency, and all the female trafficking of beautiful women out of Eastern Europe, and of course all of the subterfuge there to how Trump and Melania actually met, and in those circles, and all of that, and the protection of his family there. So in that's the awful, okay, that when I look at all of it, and I have, go read again, I say Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail, get the full story. You know, the outrage is so understandable because it's horrific, right? To know that there is worldwide pedophile operations that are blackmail operations to control governments worldwide by cartel Babylon, bankster elite, private public partnerships, and we see Israel in the center of that spider web, right? We see Mossad and CIA and MI6 in the center of that spider web. And so now Trump is dealing with these devils, um, trying to make these deals. And we have, of course, right after the July 10th signing of the Memorandum of Understanding by Doug Burgum and Chris Wright, Scott Wright or Chris Wright? I think it's Chris. Department of Energy, Department of Interior, that they signed this memorandum that the U.S. to do with energy and AI in collaboration will collaborate as this mass AI and energy coming together, massive new infrastructure happening here in the U.S. Very concerning, very concerning. I don't have the answers yet. I am digging in, and I'm digging in as much as I can because I don't believe this is the end of the story. And then, of course, we have yesterday in Pittsburgh, of all places, which has been such a, that the Pittsburgh field office of the Secret Service is where everything kind of rolled out for the Butler assassination attempt, and just a huge Democratic stranglehold. And the floods, right? We get floods all through Pennsylvania, right? When they're talking about, oh, we need hydro dams, we need, AI centers and Google connected to these, rivers, and they're just, flooding out everywhere with these weather weapons, and it's all being very clear, all the Doppler radar, all the pings, all the river and the skies just being guided everywhere, where they keep having these floods and storms. And so there's that, right? And so we're looking at this, and that, 4 days later, after the Memorandum of Understanding around AI and energy infrastructure to do with US and Israel in collaboration, then we get this massive AI innovation summit in Pennsylvania. And we get the, the governor there, and all the stuff to do with him and what happened, with him. I just can't cover everything in this video, but basically we get now this massive infrastructure in Pennsylvania to do with AI and Google, hugely, who's going through this huge antitrust lawsuit with Gail Slater at the helm at the antitrust. She's the AG for antitrust under Bondi, but really has been doing a great job holding Google accountable. So, even down to, now I thought it was Gates, or maybe it's Microsoft, who bought 3 Mile Island to reopen, have a whole new nuclear reactor there, right? It's all kind of crazy, right? It's all kind of crazy as we're seeing, of course, the ongoing situation with Ukraine, as we're seeing that Israel is now bombing Syria. They hit the foreign ministry, the Ministry of Defense in Syria, in Damascus. They hit the Ministry of Defense. They came really close to the palace where the ex-Al Qaeda $15 million bounty on his head, El Salawi, who's now El Assar or whatever his name is, now, sanctions dropped, and Israel's now bombing the crap out of them. And all of this seeming to expand Israel's just full-on assault on all of the countries all around it. And it's unprecedented, all of the activity at the same time. And so it's something we have to keep watching. And I'm sorry I don't have a tidy, way to bring it all together. I can only put out what I observe, which I believe this continues to be this trying to deal with the imminent collapse of the economy of America, and that we're fighting what is the intention of the CCP and the World Economic Forum globalists and their push to control the AI infrastructure and what that means for digital currency, crypto, all of it, versus the USA gaining control over that before they do. And I'm like a Luddite, I spend almost all my time outside. Okay, I don't like being inside at all, and I honestly can't even stand being online. It's like a little, it just researching all the time is a labor of love, and so all of this infrastructure around all of it is against anything that I want. And I think of, for all of us who feel dismayed or feel like, oh, what do we do? We have to understand that the survival of the country right now is pretty vital, whether it is through the invasion situation and the Muslimification, the communist Muslim rollout, the bankster cartel destruction of the economy, all of it. And we all, well, Trump has been the thing, okay, that has allowed us to continue to survive right now at this time. And I would put it out there like this, that, you can kind of see Trump as a ladder, kind of a ladder to the top of the ramparts, right? Like he's making a structure, a staircase that we can climb up and over him, because he's not going to be here, okay, forever, obviously. And that our opportunity here is to do our work in our, God's armor, in our communities, in our local actions. We have time being bought for us right now. And it is taking that time to actually do the work that is going to get us to survive this period. And go up that Trump staircase up and over him to try to survive what's coming next. And it is it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, that's just true. And I know today is a little bit on the, it's not all cheery. That's just not reality. That's, why we wear God's armor. This wasn't about, everything's, unicorns and rainbows. It's about the hard reality that we are being attacked by the full force of cartel Babylon. And we do have this champion in Trump who is trying to get us over that hump to survive and to honestly wrangle the devil, having to wrangle the devil. It is something I don't, uh, you know, I don't wish on anybody. And the fact that he can keep doing this at 78 years old and continue on, tirelessly, it's miraculous. It is. And so we have to just keep looking for all of the information that comes in and sharing it, taking the actions that we can. I think it's I think it's good that we have MTG and Thomas Massie and others. But what squirrels me out is Mike Johnson now coming out and saying, yes, we should have these, Epstein files released, because don't trust Mike Johnson at all, the Speaker of the House. But this ongoing step-by-step fight, okay, is what leads, okay, towards the center of the spider web. And we need the timing all in between while the deals get done, the money gets exchanged, and we gain the momentum, we gain the economic power, the fighting power to fight off the invasion stuff. I mean, just the fact that we haven't had any massive FFs yet, okay, massive attacks. Look what Israel did, in Russia. Look what they did in Iran, and there's a lot being fought off that we don't know about, okay. And so much of this has to do with resting on the shoulders of the people inside that know how they are dealing with the devil, okay, how they are continuing. It's like it's like having the Arab Rev, just at the center of the spider web, in bed with, with the British imperialist crown and the European royals, and all of the intelligence agencies, okay, in the Arab world, and then the CCP. It's a massive fight, and so let's try to just gird our loins here. Let's try to stay strong, keep our objectives clear, and do the work, okay, rather than just screaming, yelling. For instance, with Epstein, if you haven't read Whitney Webb's books, One Nation Under Blackmail, then you really don't know the full story even, of what, even those great, her great tomes put out. Like, do the work, do the work, and especially get out and, support the things you want to support. Make the phone calls. If you love this Epstein files situation coming out through, congressional resolution, then call and tell them. If you love that there's a special counsel going to be set up to investigate a grand conspiracy of basically a coup and total treason and sedition in our government, at least through 2015 to now, call and tell them. And do your work locally. Get involved in your local governments, because that's where all the bad stuff happens. Whenever I watch whatever weather war assault that's happened in the last several years, the local governments are awful, okay? They're corrupt. They've been taken over by the Agenda 30 crowd. There's usually the Cop 30 mayors, Cop 29, the World Economic Forum mayors involved, and more these people are non-American born, okay? And I'm a firm believer that nobody should be able to be in office in the United States until you are a second generation natural born citizen, meaning that your parents were born in the USA and you were born in the USA as well. And I am one very much for no dual citizenship person should be in office. It's vital. And term limits, term limits on the Senate, on everybody, term limits, so that people actually come in to do work knowing that they can't stay and just live on a cash cow. Those things are so important. The election integrity, that's vital. Getting involved with all of the election integrity groups, that is so important. So just I'll link a couple below, so you might want to check them out. But this is vital before the midterms, and so I hope that this video was just I don't know, a perspective that maybe helps out to understand some of the things that I'm seeing going on here, because we're fighting with Congress and Senate that are, just bought and paid for, and the ones standing up and out. You need to support them, okay? And we need to get Lindsey Graham out. We need to get Mark Lynch there in South Carolina to get him out. We've got what's his name? Nate Morris, who needs to come and take Mitch McConnell's place there in Kentucky. He's going up against a couple of massive McConnell acolytes there in Kentucky. These are all races that we need you to get involved with. And so put that energy, that anger, that frustration that fuels you into just asking God, what is my role? What do I do? I have a ladder in front of me. It's a survival ladder, to climb out of this and show me my role and what I can do. Excuse me, a little sip of water. And so I'm going to leave it there. I hope that there were some helpful things in this video. And if you think so, and you think it's added value to what you are, that just what your information is, please support the channel below. There's ways to do so. And if you're looking for a job, I just thought I'd put this out there. I've been wanting to talk about it for a couple of weeks at least. But in LA, the lifeguards, okay, there's over 100 lifeguards in LA that are making over $500,000 a year. Lifeguards, okay? Lifeguards making over $500,000 a year. So there's a good racket. And then I think there's an additional 140 who make over $200,000 a year. So there you go. That's what's going on, as you've got, Karen Bass and Newsom and the crowd not being arrested for, treasonous sedition, or the deputy mayor telling her gang members to come out and attack ICE while they steal the land in the Palisades, right? I'd say local action, okay, is pretty important as the weather warfare continues to continue. And that's the war that's going on against the USA and other places in the world. We're seeing it all over the world where this is happening. Okay, this is a weather warfare system. And if we don't get control of our local governments, we're not going to be able to stop it. And of course, we want the Clear Skies Act by Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's another thing to get behind. She's trying to pass a federal geoengineering ban. Not just geoengineering, but cloud seeding. So you can't have Dominique Augustin, or whatever his name is, of Rainmaker, the Silicon Valley CEO, coming out and saying, oh, if we just do prayerful AI, it's okay to cloud seed. No. The Clear Skies Act by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Ban it all. Ban it all. And let God make the weather. Okay? That's the way to do it. And so I will thank, before I go, my fantastic sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YFTV for 10% off. 15% off goes to anybody who supports the channel. Different link and code sent to you. But this is the incredible molecule. Speaking of microwaving all of us with the weather and infrastructure in the new AI takeover. This exact formula, that is formulated in the lab in Houston, Texas, is the one used in all the research that proved that ESS60, the totally purified carbon-60 molecule, fights massively against radiation. And that includes EMF and microwave radiation. As we've seen, the new, well, I'll just say yes. So check it out. These are the capsules. I'm able to give away 2 bottles each month to different random people who donate to the channel. And I love that, just in a random giveaway. And this is the MCT oil, which is coconut oil, but MCT specific coconut oil that people use for their workouts. It's anti-inflammation, bought up by the caseload for the big C centers and for their protocols. And there's also things like the wonderful face serum, which I love and I use all the time. And so I want to just put that out there, that check that out to support the channel. They sponsor this channel, so I want to just let them know that I'm grateful for that and grateful for all of you. So thank you so much. But what I was going to say there, actually, I'll leave it for next time. I'll leave it for next time. But if you live in California and you're a little pissed off about the Senate Bill 549 that basically strips all of local control over rebuilding after natural disasters and why they were able to get this mass land grab in the Palisades for this low-income housing, like 100-unit massive takeover of that area, where it says resilient projects will be focused on over property rights of individuals and citizens of California, and dense reconstruction will be prioritized, okay, for these kind of low-income projects. And so, yeah, get involved, okay? Let's change the leadership of California. It's so vital. And I love watching Trump go after Adam Schiff when we look at what's coming with the J6 committee pardons being stripped, and we look at him being involved from everything from Crossfire Hurricane to the impeachment of Trump to then J6, all of it. Of course, Fannie Mae and the Doge committee over at going through the HUD files, and they're at Fannie Mae have identified that Adam Schiff is guilty of mortgage fraud to do with 5 different properties and claiming he has multiple first residences in multiple states and all of this. So good to see there. But yeah, let's get active, okay? You'll end up like Oregon, where now they're passing a bill in Oregon where the corrupt governor there is trying to say that anybody who's on an inner tube going down the rivers, which is a lovely pastime for people who mostly are your, middle class and working class families who want to have fun on the rivers in the summer. They go on inner tubes, and it's a great thing, wonderful thing. I know me in my life and the places I've lived, it's one of my most favorite things to do is inner tubing down rivers. Now she wants to make it that it's considered a boat, and even a kayak, it will be considered a boat, and everybody must pay for a permit to even go and float on the river. So that's what's coming for all of us if we don't get involved locally, right? So I will leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, and you are free, okay? So exercise that freedom, make those calls, and think with your discernment, big picture. Use your outrage to fuel change. Make the change. You are the change. You are free.